Right, so I just spent about 10 minutes filming this video and I realized that it wasn't actually recording. So, take two, we're going to try this again. Now, recently I got a question of how do I actually improve my psychology and what actionable steps can I actually take? Because very often we hear all this wishy-washy, just generalized takes on psychology on social media and, just follow the plan, just detach your emotions and all this stuff. But like, what can we actually do to create that improvement in psychology and actually progress ourselves as traders? And so I've got a few points written down here, and so I'm going to kind of go off a little bit of the cuff every now and again. And I think what's important to understand is, really first and foremost is what creates good psychology in trading and what does that actually look like, right? So when we think about good trading and we think about consistently profitable traders, what do they look like and how do they act? So very often these traders are flexible. They are calm, they are objective, they are stress-free, they are focused on the outcome. They are in what's called flow state. And getting into this flow state is kind of what we'll dive into in this video and how we can actually do that, right? But what then contributes to good psychology? So very often we have to look at life outside of the charts, because what I see and what I try to do is we try and trade ourselves out of bad situations. And it's very rare that people see positive outcomes from this. And sure, you'll see like the survivorship bias on social media of someone who, was working in McDonald's and now they're trading hundreds of thousands or whatever that may be. Very often you don't see the downside of that and all of the number of people that failed. So I want to, stress that trading will not get you out of a bad situation. If you're mentally down and out and, you have these all personal conflicts that you haven't resolved, trading is not going to resolve that for you. So it's very important that you resolve personal conflicts outside of the charts and you resolve, trouble with self-worth, self-image, trouble around money, all this good stuff, because you need stability in order to trade well. Instability in trading do not go well, right? It's just a cause for poor habits, gambler's mentality, and really just a recipe for disaster. So, you need to create that environment that is actually conducive to good, calm, objective decision making and stress-free environment. And that looks like having stable income, having a consistent income every month, having, not too many personal conflicts, not being overwhelmed psychologically and, having all this personal stresses in our lives, because, that spills over into trading. Inevitably, when we have all these stresses outside of the charts, it's going to spill over into our decision making. It's going to cloud our decision making when it comes to money, because there's money on the line. And when there's money on the line, we become heightened emotionally. So we must cultivate that stress-free environment. And, sometimes you have to put trading on the back burner until you get your life in order, until you sort things out, until you get your income sorted, until you get your, personal relationships and sorted, your health, all this stuff. The foundation has to be there first. I struggled when I first started with my self-worth and, trying to use trading as this validity that I was worthy and that I was right and I was, I was worthy, right? I was good enough. That psychological trauma, I guess, was, tying me to the outcome of each individual trade. So when I would lose, I would beat myself up. I would be more emotional. When I'd win, I'd feel on top of the world. I'd feel like I was better than everyone else. I feel like I was right, and that emotional attachment does not help you in any way, because as traders, as good traders, they are very often in flow state and they're not thinking and they're not emotionally attached to those outcomes, and they're not thinking in that manner of I need this trade to be right in order to be worthy, right? So you have to solve these issues around those mental struggles that, some of us are dealing with. And people might say, this doesn't apply to me, but very often the type of individual that gets drawn into trading has some level of personal conflict, right? Something that they're either trying to prove to someone else or to themselves, and this apparently trading is going to solve those issues, right? But it's not. That's just a be all and end all. It's not going to do that. Prop firm match is the number one place I go to for anything prop firm related, whether that's reviews, offers, spreads, payout, you name it. They cover everything about these firms, and we know how important it is when it comes to choosing the right firm. So check out the link in my bio for more information. Now, the first step to actually improving your psychology and an actionable step is to become self-aware. And that self-awareness comes from journaling. And journaling basically everything that crops up in your mind, and not to come at it with judgment, not to be critical of yourself or put yourself down when these emotions or feelings crop up in your trading, but to just simply become aware of them, be indifferent to them, simply write it down. I feel fearful in XYZ situation because, I didn't want to lose money, or because I was tired that morning, or whatever that may be. And what this log allows you to do is, like I've said before, become self-aware. And that self-awareness then takes the sting out of those emotions, because, saying an emotion out loud, when we speak about our emotions and our feelings, very often it allows us to detach from those feelings and emotions, right? Because when we speak it out and we say it, we become more objective, and we actually think about the emotion, think about it logically, and that takes that sting away from it, and it allows us to pause when we feel these emotions and think, okay, is this how I want to react in this situation, or do I want to continue executing my plan and my strategy? Okay, so then next is having a deep understanding of your edge. And I know on social media very often we go back and forth between psychology and technicals, and psychology and technicals, but they both go hand in hand here, and they're both vital for you to be able to create consistency and actually consistently pull money from the markets. And having a deep understanding of your edge is very, very important, because having that detailed plan, those detailed expectations of what you do when certain things happen, allows you to cut out the emotions that can creep into your decision making, because you have it written down. You know what you do in these scenarios, and you execute on those decisions. And when your psychology is in line, and your plan fits everything, and your strategy is all in line, having that good psychology then allows you to consistently execute on that edge. But if you have a lot of holes in your plan, if you have a lot of cracks, then if your psychology is not up to par, that's where a lot of emotional decisions will creep in, and a lot of poor decision making and bad mistakes can creep into your trading. So it's very important to have a deep understanding of your edge, years worth of data to really build up that confidence in what you're doing and your ability to execute on those ideas. So in turn, I think a lot of what good trading comes down to is really building the environment for it. And that just doesn't mean at the charts, it means externally and everything else in your life. So when we're looking at actionable steps and what you can actually do to improve your psychology, it's to improve your life, improve the environment that you operate in, improve your levels of stress, and improve your whole lifestyle, because that has a direct impact into your decision making when you're at the charts. So a lot of people think, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but they think trading is just going to somehow solve all of their life problems. Like, I'm going to get into trading, I'm going to make thousands of dollars straight off the rip, and then everything else, then I'll fix my life afterwards, right? But you have to fix your life before you fix your trading, right? You don't become profitable and then fix your life. You fix your life, then you become profitable. So you have to fix your whole mentality around it. And that comes from a lot of deep personal work. And everyone's different, and we all have different personal conflicts and dilemmas that we deal with, and everyone has different financial situations. And, it's up to you to do the work, right? You have to become self-aware. You have to become conscious, and you have to make the decisions every day to improve, to work on yourself, to work on your mindset, to build the lifestyle that is conducive to good, logical decision making when it comes to the charts. So resolve personal conflicts, become self-aware of your emotions, track your emotions, track your feelings, track your journal, have a deep understanding of your edge, your trading strategy, a plan of action in all scenarios and what might happen. And once those things are all in line, then you can actually build consistency from there, because you have clear feedback loops, you have clear structures in place, you have clear frameworks about what you do in all of these different scenarios. And that will finally allow you to create consistent profitability in the market.